Welcome everybody to another episode of Fins Nation. I'm your host Louis Sung, and now that the Miami Dolphins 2023 schedule has officially been released, we are going to go over every single game one by one to try to get a prediction of what the Dolphins win-loss record could be and the significance of the timing of all of these games so far. So we're going to jump into that right now, but before we go ahead and do that, just want to go ahead and mention that this show is, as always, brought to you by our friends over at You Brake Wheel Fix. You Brake Wheel Fix is the complete automotive wheel solution. Ever parked too close to the sidewalk curb? You Brake Wheel Fix specializes in the repair of damaged wheels from bends, cracks, or curb rash. Or maybe your wheels are faded or peeling. You don't need to replace them, as You Brake Wheel Fix can refinish them to like new. Offering complete refinish options through powder coating, machining, and polishing, You Brake Wheel Fix is the answer to all of your wheel needs. And if you're just looking to give your ride a new look, You Brake Wheel Fix also offers many car customizing options, such as new custom wheels and tires from your favorite brands, performance upgrades, window tinting, and suspension modifications. Located just south of Aventura, you can reach Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 or online at youbrakewheelfix.com. They are really active on all social media platforms at You Brake Wheel Fix, so shoot them a DM on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter and get an estimate in just minutes. So don't delay, go to You Brake Wheel Fix and start customizing your ride to show off your Dolphins fandom today. This show is also brought to you by PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is a revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues. Whether that's the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, one of each, it's up to you to decide. Just choose whether your chosen player will get more or less than their projected stat. They give you free squares, special Taco Tuesday promos, and today is Flex Friday. So that means you're going to get a special over there at PrizePicks. You're either going to have the ability to get your money back if you lose up to $20 or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. So with offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up at this point if you are any kind of a fantasy sports fan. So use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Again, that's promo code 5, FIVE. Go to prizepicks.com, deposit your 100, and let PrizePicks give you 100 of their dollars for you to play with and get started winning today. Alright everybody, let's go ahead and get started here. So the Miami Dolphins, along with every other NFL team, unveiled their 2023 schedule, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. When I originally started watching the video that they had put out, the basic generic movie stuff, it kind of had me turned off a little bit because I had seen what other teams were doing, and I know that the Los Angeles Chargers got a lot of kudos from the modern audience, so to speak, for making their schedule release an anime and all that wonderful stuff. What the Dolphins were doing, at least at first, just seemed a little generic to me, kind of boring. But then they started getting into like the movie posters and stuff like that. We saw the players actually getting involved with the commercial. Jerome Baker was in there. Bradley Chubb was in there. I think Mike McDaniel made an appearance too. So it was very interesting near the tail end of it all. And then I saw the movie posters, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I thought those were really funny. The fact that we had Chill Hill, I'm assuming that's a Kill Bill joke there. Happy Cleats with Jalen Waddle. Just that's funny stuff for me. So, and of course, Christian Wilkins. It's kind of interesting to me that Christian Wilkins is still front and center on all their advertising. That just goes to show that any kind of discussion about how Christian Wilkins is not getting an extension, I'm just going to go ahead and throw that away right now. It's very, very obvious that Christian Wilkins is still very much in their long-term plans just by the simple fact that they keep putting him front and center on all of their advertising. You don't put somebody front and center and basically make them the star if you don't plan on keeping them. And Christian Wilkins, of all the players on that defense, you better believe that they're going to go ahead and extend him. They'll gladly let Jerome Baker walk before they let Christian Wilkins walk. I firmly believe that. But anyway, I'm not necessarily here to critique the Miami Dolphins' creativity as far as making their parodies and whatnot. I'm here to actually talk about the schedule. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. So the very first thing that stands out to me, and this is unfortunate that my friend Ron Caneff, who is my co-host on Pulse of Fins Nation, it looks like his little theory was actually true, because I'm looking at the first few weeks of the season, and it doesn't seem like the Miami Dolphins are getting a whole lot of love at first at home. So let's just take a look at this real quick, right? So week 1 of the 2023 regular season, the Dolphins are going to be flying out to California to play against the Los Angeles Chargers. That's week 1. Week 1, Miami is going to go and get a rematch against the Los Angeles Chargers, who, for all intents and purposes, San Francisco kind of derailed the offense, and then once that happened, the Los Angeles Chargers came in and made it crash and burn. So while I'm not thrilled about the idea of going all the way to California to start the season, and then I have to wait a whole afternoon to be able to watch the Dolphins play, and I have to wait my turn, so to speak, on the other hand, I am a little bit happy that they're going to be able to get a chance at redemption early on. The Chargers are not going to get a chance to see any new film. They already know what we did at first. We know that Tua's going to be, of course, featured in the offense. You're going to know that Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are going to do their thing. But who knows what other wrinkles that Mike McDaniel has in mind? Is he going to be using something with Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson? Is he going to be doing something with Devon Achane? Or is Dalvin Cook still a possibility to come to Miami? We're going to see about that. The rumors seem to have died down a little bit since we last discussed this whole conversation, but nevertheless, it's still an option. As for what I think will happen, I kind of feel like the Chargers are going to be a little bit weaker than they were before. I don't think that they're going to be able to just count on Justin Herbert to get the job done all at once. First of all, it's not going to be the same kind of defense, not even close. Justin Herbert is going to have to process. He's going to have to figure out how to get past the likes of Jalen Ramsey. He's going to have to get past Xavier Howard. He has to get past David Long Jr. He's going to be facing a fully healthy and fully prepared Miami Dolphins defense led by none other than Vic Fangio. So it's no longer going to be a cakewalk for him to just completely come in and wreck the Dolphins defense. That is just not going to happen. On the plus side, even more so, you have all these defensive players, and I know they're going to be chomping at the bit because they got humiliated against the Chargers last season. They're going to be coming for blood this time. So I'm sure that the Dolphins defense is going to put up a fantastic fight. They're not going to be able to let the Chargers adjust to anything because since it's literally week one, there's no new film. All they can do is look back at what the Dolphins did last year and just assume that everything is going to be the same because you know how the preseason goes. You can't look at the preseason and say this is what the Dolphins are planning for the entire regular season. In the preseason, it's about as boring and bland as you can possibly make it. So that way, you're just going to have to live with it, see which players do the best in the basic vanilla scheme, and that's all the preseason is good for. That's all it's good for. It's good for weeding out whatever flotsam is left on your roster and picking your best 53 guys to say, you know what, this is what we're going to go with for the rest of the season, or at least until somebody gets hurt and you have to bring one of them back. So I honestly feel fairly confident. I feel like the Dolphins can actually beat Los Angeles Chargers. I know that there are going to be many media pundits who are going to look at the whole quarterback situation and say Justin Herbert is better than Tua, therefore Justin Herbert will win. It's never that simple, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say the Dolphins beat the Chargers on the road to start week one. It's going to be a fresh season. It's going to be a fresh offense, a fresh defense, and Justin Herbert's going to have a heck of a lot harder of a time getting past Vic Fangio's defense than he did Josh Boyer's, and I firmly believe that the Dolphins offense is not going to make the same mistake twice. So going at 1-0, the Dolphins are then going to be traveling to Foxborough. Yep, they're going to Foxborough. So they're going to play the New England Patriots in Foxborough. And it's going to be a nighttime game. 8:20 p.m. is when it's scheduled. And I'm going to go ahead and label this one as a win as well. I don't think the Patriots can do anything to the Dolphins that they can't immediately get past. They were able to wreck the Patriots last season. And I firmly believe the only reason they lost the second game on January 1st was because they had to use Teddy Bridgewater to get the job done instead of Tua Tagovailoa, who has already been injured. Oh, and by the way, Teddy Bridgewater did not finish that game. Skylar Thompson had to come in again because it doesn't seem like the Dolphins had any kind of luck when it came to their backups. So Teddy Bridgewater went 12 for 19 for 161 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Skylar Thompson went 12 for 21 with 104 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And yes, the Patriots ended up winning that game. Of course they did. They had their starting quarterback play the entire game. That kind of makes a difference, folks. So even though the Dolphins split the series last season, I'm giving it an asterisk because, again, we had our second quarterback and our third quarterback playing in the same game for what seemed like the fourth game this season. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and give the Dolphins a 2-0 run so far. New England is not going to beat this Miami Dolphins. I'm sorry. They just don't have the talent needed. Next up, we have our first home game of the year. It's the Broncos at the Dolphins and Denver. Okay, so I'm looking at the Denver Broncos, right? And they have some good pieces there. Obviously, Russell Wilson is the quarterback. We'll see if he bounces back. Personally, I'm not going to hold my breath on that. His backup is Jarrett Stidham. Then you have his wide receivers. You have some interesting names on there. You obviously have Marquez Callaway, KJ Hamler. Jerry Jeudy's there, so one of Tua's old teammates. Cortland Sutton, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's not too bad. Marvin Mims Jr., the rookie that they just drafted, that's going to be an interesting one. And, of course, on defense, they have some pretty good players on there. Obviously, the notable one to see is the fact that Justin Simmons is going to be on that roster now. You have some outside linebackers that are on there, Baron Browning, Jonathan Cooper, Randy Gregory, so there's at least a pass rusher on there. You know that for sure. And, of course, the headliner on that whole defense, which is Patrick Surtain II. He's already a fantastic player. He's only going to get better. So Tua's going to have to watch himself. He won't be able to just sling it around the yard. There's some really good defensive pieces on there. Now, what they don't have, of course, is Vic Fangio. So we can just go ahead and be happy about that. But there are some really good players on this roster. Quinn Miners is there as a guard. You're going to have some centers there that are really good. You have Lloyd Cushenberry III. Kyle Fuller is going to be hanging out there. So there's some good players on this team. Now, will they be able to come together as a actual unit? That is going to depend on Sean Payton. So Sean Payton, for many people, is going to be looked at as a Hall of Fame coach. He benefits from the fact that he had Drew Brees as his quarterback for the majority of his head coaching career. So it was actually interesting that Alfredo Arteaga pointed out that between Sean Payton and Mike McCarthy, one is considered a genius and the other is considered an idiot. However, they have very, very, very similar records overall in the NFL. So why is Sean Payton the genius while Mike McCarthy is an idiot? Is it just because of the stigma of their careers? Is it because there were certain scandals surrounding other guys? I don't know. I think it just boils down to the fact that one had a Hall of Fame quarterback and one did not. So Sean Payton has that benefit. Now he has Russell Wilson. And while Russell Wilson in his prime is unquestionably one of the best quarterbacks who ever played, at least in the modern NFL era, at least in the time that I've watched football, nowadays, Russell Wilson's not the same guy. He just isn't. So can Sean Payton prove that he's not just a fluke, that Drew Brees didn't carry him, kind of like Tom Brady's kind of carrying Bill Belichick a little bit here? His legacy's kind of fallen off because Brady's gone. So is Sean Payton going to fall the way of the dinosaurs too and basically be like, oh, I don't have Drew Brees, so I'm not all that great anymore? We kind of saw a glimpse of that before he left New Orleans. He had Teddy Bridgewater for a little while. He had Jameis Winston for a little while. He had a bunch of quarterbacks after Drew, but none of them actually got the job done. So now he's going to have Russell Wilson. Was he going to be able to resurrect Russell Wilson's career? We'll see. If he does, he definitely deserves some credit. But I think that Mike McDaniel is going to be able to get the job done on offense, and I think that Vic Fangio, again, all this boils down to Vic Fangio. You look at Vic Fangio and you say, you know what, actually, now that we have this guy as defensive coordinator, none of these offenses necessarily look unbeatable anymore, and especially not when your quarterback is desperately trying to recapture old magic that he may or may not have anymore. So, first home game of the year, Miami was almost unbeatable at home last season. I'm going to go ahead and say that that continues. Miami Dolphins fans are going to be going ballistic. They're going to be excited. They can't wait to watch all these players play. Jalen Ramsey, a new superstar to enjoy watching. David Long Jr., a new really good player up and coming to enjoy watching. All the returning offensive players are back. I'm going to say that the Dolphins fill that stadium up and the Broncos go home without a win in their pocket. Miami moves to 3-0 to start the season. So a fantastic start. But now here's where I start getting frustrated because, again, the lack of home games early on in the season. So Miami on week 4 is going to be going all the way to Buffalo. Yeah. Not having a repeat of last season NFL. You don't want to see your NFL darlings end up melting in the Hard Rock sun all over again. Don't want to give them a chance to be memed on all over again. They really don't want the Buffalo Bills to lose to Miami again. I guarantee you that. So now in week 4, they're going to be facing Buffalo in Buffalo, where the chance to actually have the home field advantage, where the heat would kick in, they're not going to have that anymore. So in Buffalo, it's not going to be nearly as blistering hot as it would have been in Miami. So Miami's just going to have to figure out a way to win. Unfortunately, I don't think they get the job done. Buffalo at home is really difficult to beat. Josh Allen is still there. They've got some really good players on there. They just went and drafted Dalton Kincaid, so he's going to be really good for them. I think he's going to be the weapon that they're missing. And even if not, Dawson Knox is still there. Stephon Diggs is still there. So even if Jalen Ramsey or Xavier Howard do manage to lock down Diggs, at least a little bit, because I don't think they've ever really succeeded in doing that, I sadly think this is where the Dolphins end up getting their first loss of the season, going to Buffalo. I think they're going to lose that game, even though it's a 1 p.m. game. They're still early in the season, but yeah. So Miami moves to 3-1. I'm sorry that Miami Dolphins fans are not going to be able to enjoy a 4-0 start. Moving on to week 5, you see the Giants going to Miami to face the Dolphins there. Hard Rock Stadium, again, the Dolphins were nearly unbeatable last season, and there is nothing on this Giants roster that makes me very nervous. You could argue maybe Saquon Barkley. Their offense, quite frankly, looks like a disaster zone because they just went ahead and they just paid Daniel Jones a ton of money. I don't think Daniel Jones is all that special. Tyrod Taylor is one of their backups. Now, their running backs, there's a familiar name on there. You have Matt Breida, who's hanging around. And, of course, Saquon Barkley is their franchise tag player. So you have good running backs there. I know that for a fact. As for their wide receivers, you got Jamison Crowder, Okay. You've got, let's see, Wandale Robinson. Okay. Sterling Shepard. Darius Slayton. Okay, not bad, I guess. I'm trying to be nice about the whole thing. I don't want to make it look like I don't care. Jalen Hyatt. So they just drafted him out of Tennessee. He's a rookie. He's 6 feet, 185. So there may be something there for them. Aside from that, though, they drafted John Michael Schmitz Jr., who's a center. So it's obvious the Giants are going for the whole offensive line thing. One might question why the Dolphins didn't do the same thing. They could have had John Michael Schmitz if they really wanted it, but, I guess they just have faith in Austin Jackson. I'm sure Cameron Fleming is coming. Relax, folks. I really do. On the defensive side of the ball, there's some really good names on this side. Okay, so you've got guys like Adoree Jackson. He's there on defense. You've got, obviously, Dexter Lawrence, who just signed a really big contract. He's going to be a dangerous nose tackle. Leonard Williams is there. You've got guys on there like Gerard Davis. I think he's going to try to get his career back in gear here, but I'm not necessarily worried about him per se. But you've got some dangerous people on here. Azeez Al-Jalari, Kayvon Thibodeau. A lot is hinging on that Miami Dolphins offensive line to get the job done. But, again, the level of talent that I'm seeing with the New York Giants overall, I don't see them beating out Miami. I'm just going ahead and basing it off of what I see with the Dolphins roster, what they have to work with, who they have as coaching staff right now. I know that Brian Daboll is a good coach. I'm not going to take anything away from him. He did a fantastic job last season. But just based on the fact that I see Tua as a better quarterback than Daniel Jones, if you're going to go strictly on running backs, I think that the New York Giants obviously have an advantage there, and they're going to try to run the ball a lot. Vic Fangio's defense is basically designed to screw up quarterbacks, not necessarily stop and stuff the run. So they may get some good yards on there. I don't think that they're going to be able to score a whole lot of points when all is said and done. I'm going to go ahead and give the Giants a little bit of credit and say that the game is going to be close, but I think Miami will pull out a win, and they'll go ahead and jump to 4-1. Next up, you're going back to home. We're going to go and face the Carolina Panthers, and hopefully my good friend Duke will be able to come and visit. Maybe we can watch that game together at the stadium. We can get a whole group get-together. We'll see on that. But the Carolina Panthers, they just went ahead and they drafted Bryce Young. So it'll be a battle of the Alabama quarterbacks here. You've got on the running back side of the ball, you've got Chuba Hubbard who's there. Miles Sanders just got signed over there, so he's a really good player. I know that our good friend Manny, who's going to be going back to watching his Eagles next year, I'm sure he's going to be enjoying that. Hayden Hurst as a tight end, he's still pretty good. Your wide receivers, DJ Chark Jr., Jonathan Mingo, who was Alfredo Arteaga's guy, he was one of the favorites. Laviska Shenault Jr. is going to try to make something happen with Bryce Young. Preston Williams, there's a name for you to remember. Maybe he gets to all get back in the gear. Adam Thielen, there you go. There's another name you're going to recognize. So they've put a lot of really good pieces around their star quarterback, their soon-to-be star quarterback anyway. It's going to be a tough one, honestly. I think that the way that I'm looking at it, I'm just looking at the defensive side of things as well. Brian Burns, Yetur Gross-Matos on either side of the line of scrimmage. They're going to be coming after the likes of Austin Jackson. I don't think Teron Armstead has anything to worry about, but Austin Jackson, there might be something to worry about there. Eric Rowe knows how to get the weak spots of these guys. I know that he spent a lot of time with Miami now, and now he is in Carolina Panthers uniform, so he's going to know something, at least at an individual level, how some of these players work. Never underestimate the power of a data dump. I'm not saying that's going to be a huge factor. Obviously, it's a whole new defense, and it's a now altered offense, but yeah, scouting reports on certain players, you just never know. I have no reason to base this decision on other than that just call it a hunch, but I think the Dolphins are actually going to end up losing this game against the Carolina Panthers. I think they'll drop to 4-2. I don't like that whole idea, but I have to I can't just assume the Dolphins are going to win every single game. I have to at least try to be a little bit objective about this whole thing. Call it a hunch. Let's call it the any given Sunday. I don't think the Dolphins win this one. I think they drop to 4-2 at home. And the week after that is going to be brutal as the Miami Dolphins go to Philadelphia to face the Super Bowl runners-up, the Philadelphia Eagles. So Jalen Hurts, a running quarterback. Running quarterbacks are notorious for ruining the Miami Dolphins' day. We'll see if Vic Fangio can finally put an end to all that nonsense. But I'm just not going to go ahead and assume the Dolphins win that game. I'm just going to assume that, it's not going to be pretty. I think the Dolphins will lose that game. They'll drop to 4-3. New England comes to Miami. That's going to be a win for the Dolphins. I think that the Miami Dolphins, again, they're too good to lose in New England. They're too good to lose at home against them. So Miami will go to 5-3. Dolphins at the Chiefs, and the Chiefs game is not going to be held at Arrowhead. It is actually going to be held in Germany, so it's going to be a neutral playing field for the Dolphins, and it does not count as one of their home games. So that's a plus for the Miami Dolphins. That being said, I don't think they're going to win this one. I think that the Dolphins are end up losing this game. I think they dropped to 5-4. Patrick Mahomes, he's really good, folks. He makes everybody look dumb. It doesn't really matter. And Travis Kelce's still going to be there. I think that as much as Tyreek Hill wants to make the Chiefs look dumb, I think that the Chiefs are actually going to end up winning this game. And you better believe that the referees are going to be on Kansas City's side. They do not want Germany to be buying a bunch of Dolphins merchandise. They want everybody over there to root for Kansas City. So I think Miami drops to 5-4. After that, though, you get the Raiders coming to Miami. I think the Dolphins will win that game. I just call it a hunch. I don't have a whole lot of faith in Jimmy Garoppolo as a starting quarterback. I think the Raiders have a lot of good pieces, but not enough to actually get past Miami at home. So I'm just going to go ahead and chalk that up as a win for the Dolphins. They go to 6-4. Dolphins at Jets. Man, I just can't get past this whole Aaron Rodgers thing. I want to think... Actually, I don't want to think. I want to think that the Jets will continue to suck, but I have to be objective about it and say, okay, Aaron Rodgers is definitely better than Zach Wilson, but how much better does he make the Jets overall? Is he so incredible that the Jets are just going to be this unstoppable juggernaut? I just don't see it. I don't think the Dolphins are going to lose this time. As long as Tua is healthy, I think the Dolphins can easily get past the Jets. I'm going to go ahead and call this a win for them as well. Dolphins go 7-4. After the Jets game, you're going to go ahead and see what the Dolphins can do against the Commanders. I don't even have to explain that one. Dolphins go 8-4. They're not going to lose to the Washington Commanders. I'm so sorry. Tennessee Titans. Ryan Tannehill coming for his revenge game? No, it's not going to be a revenge game, folks. They're just not. Derrick Henry will probably run for 150 yards because that's just what Derrick Henry does. But aside from that, I don't think the Titans are going to be able to put up points fast enough to actually stop the Miami Dolphins. So this defense with Vic Fangio leading it, again, all that makes such a huge difference on how good the Dolphins could actually be. And Ryan Tannehill, again, his whole thing is that he is not somebody who focuses on timing. He throws to players. He doesn't throw to spots. So timing and processing and pocket presence, stuff like that, those have never been his game. I think the Dolphins will win that game, though. Will go up to 9-4. Then you have the Jets again. This time they're at home. I think the Dolphins go 10-4 right there. The Cowboys, the Cowboys. Even though they're at home, listen, something about America's team, man. And as much as my pastor will probably mock me mercilessly for even bringing this up, I think the Cowboys will actually beat the Dolphins there, so the Dolphins will go to 10-5. Next, you have the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. So Dolphins have a really tough way to end the season. But you know what? Something tells me, this is just a hunch. I think that since last year Lamar Jackson was trying to play for his money, I think that he was trying to give it more than he usually does. You know how players are. In a contract year, they suddenly become elite. And then all of a sudden, once they get their money, feels like they just kind of take a step back. Doesn't always happen, but a lot of the times it does, and I feel like Lamar Jackson is just going to be like, okay, I got paid, now I can just kind of be my normal elite self instead of pushing myself beyond the brink to be the hero of every single game. So somehow, just based on an assumption, this is just a guess, I think the Dolphins will somehow be able to beat the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore, so that will push them up to 11-5. And finally, the last game of the season, folks. This is it. The Buffalo Bills. Time yet to be determined. They're probably going to try to figure out if they're going to try to make that game a primetime game or if they can just go ahead and let it fall by the wayside. But if the Dolphins and the Bills are both in contention for the AFC East, which they could potentially be, by the way, I think that they're going to take a very long, hard look and see if this game is going to be flexed to a primetime spot. And you know what, folks? I know that this is probably just my Dolphins homerism speaking, but I think the Miami Dolphins are going to come out on top. They're going to play at home against the Buffalo Bills, and I think that they're going to come in there, and they're going to think that they've got it all pinned down, and the Dolphins are just going to chase them out of Hard Rock Stadium, and the Dolphins will actually finish the season 12-5, which puts them in a very good position in the playoffs. And you know what, folks? There's just something about this season. I feel just good vibes off the whole thing. Yes, the offensive line is a concern. I'm sure they're going to sign Cam Fleming and try to mitigate some of those concerns. Yes, the tight end is slightly a concern. Not really that big of a deal, but just people were saying the tight end is a big need. I was saying the tight end is a big need, but really when you look at it, I'm thinking more along the lines of the future, not just this year. So I can appreciate what the Dolphins did, drafting Cam Smith instead of the likes of a Darnell Washington. And I know Mike McDaniel desperately wanted Devon Achane, so he's got him, and we'll see what he ends up doing with him. And if he becomes the Darren Sproles of the Dolphins offense, that would be super. I'm really excited. Everybody should be excited. I'm predicting 12-5. Obviously, injuries change things as time goes on, so don't take these predictions really early on as my set-in-stone predictions. Is just based on, let's just assume every team is at full strength and everything is just optimal for everybody. So that's going to be it for this show. Thank you all so much for joining us. A little bit longer than usual, but we had to get through every single game. If you have not already done so, make sure you go check out You Break Wheel Fix. If you need to get your wheels repaired, they can help you with your bends, cracks, or curb rash. Just go ahead and give them a call at 305-748-0112 or online at youbreakwheelfix.com to get an estimate in just minutes. And of course, go to prizepicks.com. Today is Flex Friday, folks. So basically, you have two options based on what they choose. You'll either get your money back up to $20 if you put in a $20 bet, and you can get the Flex Friday special, or you can possibly multiply the amount of money you can normally win on a Flex. So use that promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up, which again means literally if you put in $100 when you sign up, they will give you $100 of their dollars for you to play with. You don't even have to touch your deposit until you bet through that $100. So go ahead, don't delay, go to prizepicks.com, get started winning today. That's going to be it for this week of Fins Nation. We will see you all Monday for another episode and see what the Dolphins do next.